FrankTalks.com.
Welcome back, everybody. You're currently listening to the Men's Advocate Show with me, your host, Linda Gross. Today we are talking about cheaters, the who, what, and why of cheating. Why does this occur? And we were just talking about some of the telltale signs that you can figure out if your woman is about to cheat, or maybe it's too late and she's already cheating on you. Now, keep in mind that I think the sexes are different. Usually men cheat because they want variety. You know, something has stimulated them and they want to go try out new tricks, or maybe there's a new girl in the office that she has some attribute that the one at home doesn't have, or, you know, they want that variety. They want that spice. They want to mix things up, and men cheat for those types of reasons. And I think men cheat because there's a physiological reason that they have to cheat. They have 10 times the amount of testosterone that women have, so they have to release. So if that means releasing because they're watching porn by themselves, or if that means cheating with somebody else outside the home, then that's what they're going to do. It's a physiological response to what the body is doing. Converse to that, I think women cheat primarily because they're pissed at you. So it's more of an emotional-based type of situation. Maybe her girlfriend got a new diamond ring and you haven't upped the ante, and she looks bad among her friends because she doesn't have a shiny new ring. Or maybe you are being controlling and manipulative and just harassing her all the time, and she doesn't like that. You know, those types of things are because there's something about the dynamic between the two of you that she's really upset with, and she's cheating to get even with you. She's cheating to get mad. You know, there's an agenda. There's usually an agenda with women. Usually with women, it's not to satisfy a physical need. That's a bonus if they get that. But usually it starts with there is a psychological factor there that she needs to get even with you. All right, so we have on the line Frank, who's calling in. Welcome, Frank, to the show. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So you have a story to tell, either about yourself or someone you know with regard to cheating?
Well, the only thing I want to say is that as bad as cheating is, cheating unto itself doesn't necessarily indicate the end of an existing relationship. It really depends why that cheating happened. Now, does cheating, can it lead to the end of a relationship? Can it lead to a divorce? Absolutely. But it doesn't necessarily have to. When I sit down and either work with individuals who have been cheated on, or work with a couple that's trying to save their relationship and there was an incident of cheating, usually we go back and we try to figure out what was the motivation, why the person cheated, what was it about them that motivated them to do it. And once you can identify that, that's when you can find out, are we dealing with two people who are just incompatible, and cheating is a symptom of that? Or was there something they weren't getting at home that they were able to get outside of the home, and it might not necessarily just be sex. They might need something else fulfilled outside of their primary relationship, and the only way to get that fulfilled outside of the relationship is to have sex, but it isn't the sex itself. So once we can figure that out, that's when we can figure out whether or not they want to move forward with making the relationship work.
I like that, and I do agree with that. I think getting to the motivation factor is a very telling one and a very important one. And sometimes couples left on their own, sometimes there's like a communication barrier where person two doesn't hear what person one is saying for whatever reason. And it's always good to have a third person in the room, because then you can't run and hide. Everybody heard what was just said, and now you have to address it. So if the question is, why did you cheat, or what was the motivating factor, you can't just go run and hide under the sofa. You pretty much have to, you're there for a reason, and if your reason to be there is to work things out, you have to address it. I wish couples could talk these sort of things out on their own, but I don't know if you heard the show earlier at the top of the hour, but it was saying that the statistics for couples remaining together are, infinitely better if they talk it out with a third person.
Usually, when people are afraid to talk to their partner, there's usually somewhere in their history an incident where one person tried to be honest and the other person was either refusing to discuss the issue or couldn't handle that topic of conversation. When those type of barriers are put between people, where your partner is afraid to be honest with you, or you are afraid to be honest with your partner, whether you acknowledge it or not, that dynamic is what invites issues like cheating into the relationship. As long as you can maintain an open dialogue where you are not afraid to discuss anything and you are not afraid to have anything brought to your attention, that's when you can safeguard your relationship. Most people think that, well, if I bring it up, then, there's going to be a problem. Usually the opposite. The fact that you don't bring it up means it's going to manifest in other ways. So to any couple listening, if you truly want to safeguard your relationship, make sure you can learn to handle the truth, no matter what that is. But if your partner is too afraid to tell you what happened during their day, if they're omitting things because you have behaved in a way that says, I can't handle it, I don't want to hear it, you're inviting those type of problems into your future. So that's one telltale sign. And by the way, people who are looking to be the other man or the other woman when they're trying to approach someone in a couple, that's one of the things they test for. They find out whether or not the couple actually shares everything. Because couples who share everything will mention, oh, by the way, you know what happened to me? I got hit on today. Really? Tell me about it. When you have that kind of a dialogue going, it's very difficult to get either one of those people to do something that they might later regret. That's one of the things that they test for. If they're willing to lie to their spouse, even about, inconsequential things because, well, my spouse really couldn't handle it, it would just start a fight, that means, oh, you're a prime target for what I want to do with you. In the minds of people who would, really don't care about your relationship. They just want something for them.
Absolutely. And sometimes, when the couple themselves are open and honest with what the subject is, let's say she comes home and she says, oh, my boss is hitting on me, it might elicit a further dialogue, and maybe he might offer some suggestions on what to do to make the situation better, because you don't want to piss off your boss, you don't want to get fired, or you don't want to have projects not be thrown your way. So it is a sticky situation, and sometimes the opposite sex can kind of help with something that you might not be seeing and help you with your situation.
I actually have a story. I have an exact story about that, about a situation like that, where a boss was flirting with one of his female employees. And, he wasn't being aggressive or crude or anything, but he was asking questions that were maybe just a little bit inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And so she went and talked with her husband at home, and at least he was aware of it, and this went on a couple of weeks. And by the third week, the questions were getting a little bit more inappropriate. And so what the husband did is that he actually called up the boss. And
wow.
Usually most people say, well, no, that's the wrong thing to do. That's the wrong thing to do. You can't threaten them. And what the husband did in this case is that he said, hi, listen, I just want to talk to you. My wife's been very open with me about what goes on because my wife tells me everything and I tell her everything. And she had said something of a remark that you made that made her feel a little uncomfortable. So I'm just calling to hear your side of it because, I mean, everything I've heard about you says you're a good guy. So would you mind telling me exactly what's going on? Because I just want to make sure that, my wife is safe. That's all I'm worried about. Well, the boss at that point was like, well, no, I never meant anything like that. And he completely backtracked. So the husband decided at that point, okay, we've given him some rope. Let's let him swing a bit. He says, well, I'm so happy to hear you say that. I feel so much better that you've reassured me. Because like I said, my wife tells me everything, and she doesn't have a problem with it, but I do. And, maybe it's my insecurity. But it's just important for me to reach out and make some contact with you. So they ended up being friends at the end of that phone call. But the next day, when she went to work, the boss says, why did you tell your husband? And the wife says, I tell my husband everything. That's the kind of relationship we have. Well, wouldn't you know it, that the boss stopped flirting with her.
Wow.
No threats, no aggressiveness, just a little, hey, my wife and I have the kind of relationship where we tell each other everything. That scares away people who are looking to manipulate.
It's
that
a very
really
subtle way to say that you're on notice. So I do
Yes,
like that.
but not
And I
actually
like that the husband was not threatening. And I like the fact he said some nice things, like we hear that you're, a really good boss and a good person, and, my wife enjoys working with you or whatever, to kind of soften the blow and just to kind of get his side of the story, because I don't know, maybe he said something inadvertent, maybe he didn't mean anything by it, but then again, maybe he did mean something by it, and his making that call, the husband making that call, puts him on notice. Love that story.
So if it turns out that it was nothing, fine. But if it turns out it was something, she's protected. She's protected in that situation. And the husband doesn't do anything that's going to get the cops called on him, because you can't threaten people. And that's most people's first reaction, right? Because it's coming out of jealousy. It's coming out of fear. Mm-hmm. You're better off just having a nice conversation like that guy did. Just reassure the other guy, hey, listen, at some point you and me will go out for a beer. Thank you. It never happens. It never materializes to meet for a beer. But again, like you said, she has to continue working there. And the boss or whoever is put on notice that, hey, I'm not a fool, and she may be okay with it, but I'm not. And I just want to let you know that I'm not. So, and now that they know, well, wait a minute, anything I say to this person, it goes right to the spouse. You can't break up a couple that's on the same team.
That's right. I love that. Thank you so much, Frank, for your story and for your insights. I really appreciated having you on the show. And please call us again in the future.
You be well, Linda. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to FrankTalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to FrankTalks.com. FrankTalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit